Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today we have with us Harry Malos, the clinical counselor. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you, Paul.
And we're going to discuss that peculiar thing that happens every time we have a festive season, specifically Christmas time, that people might not feel that happy and might feel more depressed than they should have. And the emotions, they're really high at that period of time. Is there really problem for people, Harry, in that during that period yet?
Definitely. Statistics show a large scale of emotional depression and anxiety during festive period, especially during Christmas. And
that negative emotion, because that's a negative emotion to feel depressed during Christmas, where do they come from? What are the possibilities that they come from?
Well, one of the major issues and the possibilities of why it's more salient during that period is because of their expectations. The expectations are of what Christmas is portrayed. It's a warm, fuzzy family environment where everybody gets along with everybody, and that's what is portrayed on television and in newspapers. And when they can't live up to that, then they feel depressed and sad.
Okay, which is going to be, that means if I have a family problem, that will be magnified at that period of time.
Yes.
And how about financial reasons as well?
Yes.
I'm thinking the financial reasons as well will be,
of course,
I can't afford to buy gifts.
Yes.
As much as I would like to.
Yes. And
the expectations of others from me.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they have lost, I mean, even the family members during that period, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
The memories is quite painful.
Yeah.
But what the expectation you're talking about means for us, the expectation in our own minds, isn't it? But the environment helps as well, isn't it?
Sure. The environment in this particular festive period is heightened. So, you know, we as human beings are all involved in relationship, whether we're with family, whether we're with friends, whether with relatives, work, and so on. This environment of getting along and having a stress-free environment is highlighted during the Christmas period in particular, because that's what we see portrayed. And when we don't live up to that image, then we start to feel sad, then we start to feel neglected or lonely, more so than in the past. And
we're going to talk later on about some sort of remedies of practical solutions. What can we do to avoid that?
Sure.
But having that emotional, how can we avoid coming in?
Well, we can manage it. It's not like avoiding it. There will always be issues centered around relationship. Okay. All relationships have their issues, as you know. Yeah. But yes, what we can do is to actually learn to function in those environments, in those times when our expectations are high and our emotions are shot all over the place.
Because a lot of people in our society, they do live on their own. We're talking about not only single parents, we're talking about students.
Yes.
That they leave home early, and we're talking about elderly.
Yep.
And a big portion of our society, they do live on their own.
Yes.
And that will be tough for them.
Yes. Again, they live on their own for 12 months, but it just seems 12 months of the year. But it just seems that during the festive period, that's accentuated.
Yeah.
And it's not about stopping those times when they feel that way. It's a bit like being afraid of the storm or learning how to dance in the rain. It's the way you view it, that it's the weather is still stormy, it's still raining for most of the period, but how we manage it is the way we overcome those emotional high periods of festive periods.
Is it the advertising? But the advertising is throughout the year, but specifically that seasonal.
Yes. Specifically during, if you look at a lot of Christmas advertising, it's about a warm, fuzzy image of family and a pet and outdoors and a lovely barbecue with all the surrounding features. Some people don't have that.
Which is far away from their own reality.
Reality is that the expectations that they watch and see on television, they can't live up to them.
Okay.
Now, the reality is that they don't live up to them for 12 months of the year, but during the festive period, it is more heightened.
Because it is quite tragic to see throughout the year, there's not as many suicides, but in that period,
yes,
exacerbates.
That's right. It's exacerbated during that period, definitely, because they cannot regulate that emotion. They can't reach those expectations. There's no way that they can find support during that period, and so they tend to. Suicide is higher during the festive period, that's for sure.
It's like somebody gives us a bit of a measurement that we cannot reach at that point, and we feel absolutely disappointed and disillusioned because we just feel impossible to reach that.
Yeah, well said, Paul. And I don't want to turn it to theological, but if we look at the real story of Christmas, it's a story of poverty. It's a story of neglect, and that's the real Christmas. But commercial has taken Christmas to mean something else, to mean plentiful, to mean that we buy each other expensive presents and take great holidays and have beautiful houses. But the real story of Christmas, as you're aware, is one of poverty, yes.
We're talking about shepherds, we're talking about those who came from afar, just the little boy, born in a manger and all that.
That's correct.
And then all of a sudden we turn it into rich and famous sort of a story, which I'm not.
Yes.
And a very, very good point, because really that indicates the distance of reality of Christmas and the Christmas we end up expect to celebrate, isn't it?
That's right.
It's far away.
It's different. It's a different story. One is commercially based, giving us an image of what we should be like, and the reality is that we're not like that.
We did speak enough in relation to how this happens and why it happens. We're going to continue shortly. Please stay with us. We're going to continue about this problem and how we can find some practical solutions.
We always liked to play chess together ever since we were little. He was always a better player than me. When I was diagnosed with Pompei's disease in 2002, I was told that my life expectancy was going to be poor, and my condition deteriorated rapidly before I was able to start treatment. My brother and I both suffered from the disease. But now I consider myself the fortunate one. My brother spent the last 2 years of his life in hospital. He didn't have access to this wonderful treatment that should be available to everybody. The world just keeps getting smaller as you progressively lose the ability to walk. So your world shrinks, and then gradually you realise, I haven't been to the supermarket in 6 months. I'm 59 now, and every year I can see my daughter grow up is a blessing. I believe my treatment's made this possible.
To learn more and help those living with Pompei's disease, register at australianpompey.com.
I was in my 40s when I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer. George, my son, was 6 years old at that time. These days, like people of his age, he's very busy, but he still needs to find the time to get to know his bowel cancer risk. Is that right, George?
Yes, Dad. Bowel cancer affects 1 in 12 Australians, young and old, and is our second biggest cancer killer. But if caught early, bowel cancer is treatable and beatable. My dad is living proof of that. So get to know your bowel cancer risk. Talk to your pharmacist or GP about screening. Protect yourself and the ones you love. Go to lovemyfamily.org.au.
Juggling work and caring for mum can be overwhelming. Having an understanding employer and access to support helps. I love my mum. I just wish I had some time to myself.
Welcome back to our program, and we're going to continue with the topic of Christmas season and people feeling not as happy as they should have been. But Harry, you mentioned before in relation to the real story of Christmas, and can this real story be connected in today's everyday person? That could be homeless, could be an asylum seeker, could be someone who lost his job, or he feels sad because he needs to visit his father or the mother or the sister in hospital.
Yeah.
In those situations, how the story of Christmas can connect with those people?
Well, it's a very good question, Paul, because what the story of Christmas and the festive period of Christmas is portrayed is nowhere near to the real story of Christmas, and the real story of Christmas is more relevant in today's society and in today's world, because
we're talking about the Son of God. I think he was an important person. What do you mean?
Yeah, the real story of Christmas is related to how a lot of communities and a lot of families live today. Okay. It is more reflective of reality than the one portrayed on the screen or on television, because the real story of Christmas is about a young family, and in particular a young child who they were homeless, they were deprived, they were rejected, they were marginalised, they were hungry, and they were in that environment where society did not accept them. That's the real story of Christmas.
That means it was more related to the marginalised today society rather than to the affluent society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the real story of Christmas, and how even in that period of portraying what the story is, how it has changed in effect, where it's about affluent societies, about expensive presents and having things that only money can buy. Well, that's not really the truth of the story. That's what's portrayed. And because of that concern, a lot of people struggle, and a lot of people have emotional sadness and depression. But if they can identify with the real story, then they are assimilated with someone who understands them. The Christmas story has a meaning to them because it touches their own life, it touches their own wound, and therefore they don't feel like they are not related to what is really Christmas.
But quite often, even if you have the means of life and you can buy expensive gifts, and you're losing the spirit of Christmas again because you forget the reality of Christmas.
Exactly.
There's on the other side as well.
That's very true. Just because you may have the affluence and the money, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy and at peace and at joy. In fact, what research shows is those who do have all those that you mentioned, all the wealth and so on, are necessarily happier. They're not more at peace. It's the families that have and understand what their poverty is, understand what the spirit of Christmas is. It's those who are connected with each other, connected with the environment that they're in, the reality of where they're in, rather than wanting an extra holiday or an extra car for Christmas.
That means we already imply here that focusing more to the story of Christmas, the way it is written,
yes,
the story of Christmas helps us more to feel comfortable during the season rather than watching the environment that we live in, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's exactly. And the reason is because it can identify with our wounds. It can identify with our pain. Okay. See, we know that the story is of poverty and hunger and being deprived.
And he had to go, Christ had to go as a baby to Egypt with his parents.
That's right, yes.
Before he come back again, because otherwise he would be...
That's right.
He would be killed by the king.
What we call those people today asylum seekers.
Asylum seekers.
Yeah.
And he was in a life-threatening situation.
Exactly, yeah. And what I'm suggesting is that if we understand what the real story of Christmas, then the expectations of what is portrayed in the media won't have that effect on us as much.
And we're going to realize we don't really need money to feel the story or to be part of the story.
That's right, yes.
And then we can do it without sort of the expectations. We really touch some elements of the solution in here. But again, we can't escape looking at the environment that we live in, isn't it?
Yes.
We can't escape. And Christmas really brings a lot of memories. Memories to some of us will be from the childhood, the happy childhood that we cannot repeat anymore.
Yes.
People that we used to be together and they're not around us anymore.
Yes.
We moved ahead to different
That's right.
places and all of that. But those high emotions, what would be the first step to try to protect myself for feeling too heavy?
Okay. So you're talking about when you are in a state of sadness or depression or something like that. What are ways of helping to cope with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially in that period you can't avoid the emotions to come.
No, you can't.
Memories.
No, that's very true. Well, there's a number of ways that you can manage that. You can't avoid it, as we said, but you can manage it. And usually I find that when sadness or depression or anything that's negative comes to us, it leaves a fingerprint behind. It leaves. So if we become aware of that period when we engaged in sadness and depression, what actually helped us and what didn't help us, because it leaves a footprint, so we know that we can recognize the kind of emotion that we felt. And by recognizing that emotion, what we can do is say, well, hang on, what helped me during that period, or what didn't help me?
We're going to talk about that footprint in a moment. Please stay with us. We're going to return after a short break.
There's a difference between forgetting something once and forgetting it many times. There's a difference between forgetfulness and dementia. Talk to someone who understands. Call the National Dementia Helpline on 1800 100 500.
I'm able to dream, I'm able to smile, I'm able to grow, and I'll go the extra mile, one day at a time. So put your hands together, we can change lives forever. Together, we're able.
Able Australia. Together, we're able.
Australian women need to kiss more. Watch out for persistent and unusual symptoms, as they could be a sign of ovarian cancer. Know the important signs and symptoms. Kiss. Look out for symptoms like abdominal or back pain, difficulty eating or feeling full quickly, or persistent bloating, or a change in toilet habits. If you're experiencing persistent and unusual symptoms for more than 14 days, see a GP. Make sure you kiss regularly.
Each week, MELfeed.video presents the CEC Report. The Citizens Electoral Council of Australia present a weekly program of political and economic analysis with policy solutions which are aimed at saving Australia from economic collapse, and also suggest ways in which interested members of the public can assist in their current campaigns. The CEC Report every Monday at 10:30 p.m. on MELfeed.video.
Australian women need to kiss.
Each week, MELfeed.video presents
Welcome back as we continue the discussion related to the holiday season and when we don't feel that good as we're supposed to feel based on advertising with Harry Malus, clinical counsellor. Thank you, Harry. Let's start with what we spoke last in relation to the fingerprints that events from the past leave in us, in our emotions.
Yes.
And they all of a sudden they come up on a surface. And for example, if I let's start with practical ways. If I lost my father during Christmas period, and all of a sudden I have to pass through this period again, and that those memories become fresh, not in my family anymore. Do you have any suggestion for that person?
Yeah, sure. Look, death, it has to be explained in terms of that it's part of life. And we can view death of a close relative, of a friend or a loved one, in two ways. First of all, we can view it as a sadness, as a longing that we miss that person, which makes us feel sad, and it makes us feel negative towards that chronicle period where we miss them. Or we can look and celebrate the life of the person. We can look at it and say what joy he brought into our lives, the warmth, the love that we had. So viewing it that way can have can bring out good emotion, positive emotion.
Can become a comfort instead of...
Yes, but viewing it in another way, in a negative way, it just brings us sadness. And you know, I mean, there is time for sadness and mourning, but beyond that period is if we live there, if we live in mourning, then it creates a problem. And yes, suggesting that depression and emotion does leave a fingerprint behind of a memory, we can use that as well. We can use it to say, when it happened, what did help me during that period? What made it worse? Because depression and negative emotions do tend to leave a fingerprint. And that fingerprint is an awareness of what has helped us and what hasn't helped us. And by identifying the things that have helped us during that period, we can use that as a way of lifting our spirits up.
That means we avoid to use avenues or ways or things doing that really bring back the pain instead of the good experiences we have in the past. What happened having in the community? There is quite a few divorcees that they just got divorced or something, and they go through this period and becomes really strong to them. What would you say to them?
Well, a separation is a sad time, whether it's Christmas or not, particularly with someone that you've been married to. It is a struggle to get through that period in best of times. And for every individual, it means different. So whatever is the struggle for that individual that is highlighted, one of the things that we encourage is for that individual to actually have someone that they can trust, they can validate their emotions. If we hide our emotions and don't actually express them,
it means don't be with the person that criticizes you all the time.
No, you need to have someone who can trust you. You can trust. And then when you express your emotions, it goes a long way towards healing, because it's a tough time.
It is a very difficult. That's why I bring them up now, so we can discuss some. Are there any things that it is a good idea to avoid during that period?
Sadly, Christmas and festive periods are associated with a lot of parties and alcohol. And sometimes the alcohol can be used as a cover-up to cover an emotion that we feel in our hearts, and it's sad. So we cover it up. It's like a little bit of a Band-Aid. The problem with the Band-Aid fix is that it's still there when some time passes. Alcohol may numb it for a little bit, but once the alcohol wears out, the issue becomes stronger. because we haven't dealt with it.
That means with alcohol, are you going to? Can we put any sort of bad habit sometimes that we're inclined to fall into?
Yes.
Even for gambling to using drugs, and that would be the similar effect.
Yeah, very, very similar. A very good question, because usually I've spoken to a lot of people who are alcoholics, and they tell me they don't even like the taste of alcohol.
Yeah.
So it's not because they enjoy it that they engage in it. It's because it helps them or removes them from a memory or a thought or an emotion they're not comfortable with. It's a cover-up. And it's the same with gambling. Gambling takes them to another place where they don't have to think about something that's not helpful or that's hurtful or that's emotional. And it's the same thing for any other form of addiction. In most cases, addiction has that. You do something in order to avoid the memory of something else.
But having said what we said so far, but we imply here in our conversation that we can pre-plan for better Christmas rather than not planning at all, and we fall into emotions without having control stops or something.
Yes, you can become aware of that Christmas is another time, like any other time of the year, where some of the things that have happened to your life existed before Christmas, before the festive period. But because of this expectation, the rigid expectations we have, those problems become stronger. So firstly, to say, well, the issues existed in the past. They still exist now.
Correct.
I managed okay in the previous 11 months, I can do the same if I think about it in that way.
And then in Christmas context, we discussed in the previous segment that returning to the original story is going to be more comforting to me, that I feel the pain in this period of time, rather than to those who have too much.
Yes, it's liberating, as you suggest.
It is, because it really we can identify ourselves with the story of Christ much easier, rather than to a rich person.
Yes, exactly. What we call that is when you touch the wound of somebody else, you identify your own issues, and that helps you cope with them. The Christmas story is a beautiful story. It's a story where, apart from the fact that it gives us hope for the future, but it also identifies with the real world today.
Absolutely. And thank you for being with us. On that positive note, we can suggest that the reality of Christmas is closer to our own reality.
That's
in our
right.
hearts and emotions and the spirit, rather than the environment that we live in.
Exactly.
Thank you for being with us. We're going to talk again, and to our viewers, have a happy Christmas, have a happy festive season, and we're going to see you again next week at the same time.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome viewers, thank you for tuning in today to Migration Stories, produced by Northern Access TV for the NAT Chat series. And my guest today is Kailan, originally from Cambodia. But you came via New Zealand.
Yes.
How did that
Don't
work?
hold that against me.
Well, we shan't. You're from Cambodia and you're now in Melbourne, Australia.
Yes.
But what was life like in Cambodia? You left very young, but can you tell us?
I was born in a refugee camp, so I didn't experience much
Not
life
very
in
many
Cambodia.
memories,
No.
really. But of course, from your family, you would have heard stories.
Yes, many stories.
So the refugee camp, where was it located?
On the border of Cambodia and Thailand.
My goodness, not very long ago, hey?
Yes.
And with the terrible stories from that area, you know, you've carried the best of your culture to Australia. What Cambodian, you know, what cultural aspects do you retain in your life?
There are many cultural aspects that I retained. Respect for my parents, it's a very important cultural aspect.
Indeed.
Although sometimes I might talk back to them, but that's a bit of Australianism
Well, we
coming
need
out.
to perhaps import a bit of respect for elders to Australia.
My love of Cambodian food, I love Cambodian food. Although I have an Aussie husband, I still need to eat Cambodian food. And I love our costumes. I love wearing our national clothes and our traditional clothes, and I love our traditional dances. So there are a lot of things which I still carry to Australia.
And like your particular, you know, ethnic background, I suppose, in Cambodia, because
there's the they call Kampuchea, which are ethnic Vietnamese living in Cambodia.
Okay.
And there are Kampuchea Le, which are more the tribal mountain people with Chinese ethnicity.
All right. So what were the circumstances of you, say, you know, getting out of the refugee camp? How did that happen?
Well, we had to escape. We
escaped?
Well, my family, I didn't personally escape myself, but my family went to Malaysia. We stayed at a few refugee camps there. There was one in Songo, BC, which was an island camp. And that's where many of my mum met many of her friends, and they're still friends here in Australia. So most of them are here now. So they have a good meeting and chat about the old days and talk about how you know, they would go and pick water lilies and grow things on the dirt and everything, and just very amazing stories of survival, which
incredible.
is, I suppose, it instilled in me this very hard work ethic, because just to see what they had to go through, I suppose, just to give us a comfortable life.
And that inspired you indeed to come and develop some ideas, which we'll find out about more, as that background and seeing what your parents went through, or your mother, has inspired you to start a social enterprise, as it were.
Yes, and it's also because people don't realise that when refugees and migrants come to a new country, especially when the community group isn't set up as well, when they're just the new people, especially when my mum was in New Zealand, she had to work many very, very long hours at a chocolate factory.
Yes.
And
then leave the children, you know, like
in the care of other people, and the whole and it's very long hours, and also the way that she was treated, because there wasn't a cultural understanding back then in the early 90s. So she wasn't treated very well, but we were very fortunate enough. We were sponsored by a church, so
thank goodness for that.
Yeah, so I've kind of grown up with very Christian ethic and Christian values, which has shaped my personality and has given me strength, I suppose, because I've witnessed through my community work in Australia and work with people in my community and also other ethnic communities, because I've done a lot of work in the multicultural community, is that sometimes they do have a tendency to look to their elders and to look to everyone else for help, and sometimes when it's not there, they don't have anywhere else to go.
Yes.
So I think I was fortunate enough to have
a church group, or Christian group to fall back on.
Yeah, to fall back on.
Who had a good plan for you.
They had an amazing plan for me, and they were very encouraging.
Excellent.
They were not judgmental, because sometimes when you're young and you're growing up and you're experimenting, sometimes you do the wrong things and you make mistakes, and you just need someone to be able to say to you, look, it's a mistake, give you a lecture, give you some advice, and allow you to move on. And that's the best kind of encouragement and comfort and advice that you can give anyone.
Well, absolutely, because you know the Christian message is it's about who's inside, and or you know who you really are, and it's wonderful. You're living evidence of that program being excellent. I suppose that there's really something in your character as well, and you know your mother has kept friendships even from the refugee camp.
Yeah.
She must have some amazing stories about her migration too.
My mum's an amazing person. She's very strong.
Yeah.
Very, very strong with everything that she had to go through, and what we experienced, not only in the refugee camps, but growing up in New Zealand.
For her it would have been before being in the refugee camp.
It was.
That must have been quite terrible.
It was horrendous, because she went through, obviously, the Pol Pot regime. So she went through the Khmer Rouge regime, and because she's half Chinese, half Cambodian, and she came from a wealthy family, so everything was against her. And she told me how she had to pretend to be stupid, really, to survive. And same with my dad, like they had to pretend to be not intelligent, no one special, just a normal person. And that's how most people survived, because they were trying to cut down all the intelligent, all the academic people, all the people who would question their authority. So that's my understanding of it.
Kolan, we'll come back to your story after some messages, so please do stick around, and we'll find out more about our Cambodian guests.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community, and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Hi, this is Darren McAlane from Air FM Drive. Join me from 3 to 6 p.m. every afternoon on 88.0 in Penrith, and also you can catch me on tunein.com. That's from 3 to 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Welcome back. We're with Gullian, and she's telling us her migration story from Cambodia via New Zealand to Australia. Now, very quickly, what was the idea of coming to Australia from New Zealand?
Well, My parents came first, and I was still finishing my studies, and they stayed. So I came after them, and we pretty much stayed.
So a research trip.
Yes.
Excellent. Now, those early months in Australia, when you were brought over with your family, what sort of things were happening?
I actually thought it was a remarkable experience for me, because living in New Zealand when you're young, and plus the culture in New Zealand has changed obviously, but back then it was, and I lived in a very non-multicultural area, so I didn't have that kind of environment. But then when I came to Melbourne, and we settled in Keysborough.
Fabulous.
So, and then when I went to Springvale and I saw all the Cambodian food and all the mangoes and all the lovely people, I just thought, wow, this is a wonderland. And then the more I got involved in the community, and then I met all these other cultures, and I met this girl called Hala, and she's been an amazing mentor and friend to me, and she's introduced me to this whole new world, I suppose. And I just thought how amazingly fantastic it was that everyone is allowed to be themselves and embrace their culture. And I suppose that's a bit of me came out, because it was okay to walk around wearing your Cambodian clothes, and it was okay to speak your language.
And fitting into, a Melbourne environment, and getting a job, and so this really struck you as it's wonderful that we have all that diversity still happening.
Yes. And the fact that we embrace opportunity here, we embrace merit. Anyone has an idea, they can go to anyone, doesn't matter who you are, and people will help you nurture your idea.
And this doesn't happen in many places, it seems. But anyway, we're so lucky to have you in Australia, and you've got a vision now to do something with your work and social enterprise. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it actually started because being a Cambodian young person, I asked myself, why don't we have any facilities for our young people, and why don't we have simple things like a hall or a youth group, or things that other cultures had, because I worked in the multicultural community beforehand, and I was awarded the Young Citizen of the Year in the City of Greater Dandenong for my work in the multicultural community. And then when I won that award, someone approached me and they said, why don't you do more for your community? And then I started doing my research and realizing that, because I suppose there was inadequacies and there was a political thing behind it, and I just thought, I'm going to push that all aside, because that's politics, and I am a community-minded person. Yeah. And then through the progression of researching about my young people and more about my country, and also my recent revisit to Cambodia, I realized how talented and how innovative and creative the Cambodian people are, but they haven't been given the opportunities. And it's not because people aren't there, it's because it is a developing country. It is a country that's developing out of a war-torn area, and it has progressed a lot. And we as Cambodian citizens and ethnic Cambodians, and also we as citizens of other countries such as New Zealand and Australia, we have to play a part in helping to develop the country. But the job of peacekeeping and the job of that kind of diplomacy has already been done. Cambodia is a peaceful country now, and now what we have to do is help drive economic growth in order to reduce simple problems like poverty. And it's a well-known fact that in order to reduce poverty, you have to drive the economy. So the premise for my initiative is I suppose it's the accepted fact, and it's the view that the Cambodian people are very entrepreneur, the innovators, they're natural innovators. Because if you go to Cambodia, under every single house you will see businesses being open.
Wow.
People are in the marketplace along the road, they sell corn, they sell food, things that they made themselves, and they've turned it into a business. So now we just have to take that creativity and that innovation and that drive, nurture it, and
put an infrastructure around it or
put
something?
an infrastructure and a framework. So that's so that's their idea, and it's a very libertarian idea, and it will work in Cambodia because it has a very free and open market. And for me personally, just from observation, I personally believe that, you know, because they have the will and they have the determination. These people, they wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
And they sit there selling mangoes, and they don't rest. They don't rest until they've done their work. And for me, I just thought it was awe-inspiring, because growing up in countries like New Zealand and Australia, we're always complaining about 9-to-5 jobs.
Yes. But it's different if you only have your natural resources and your own, you know, feeling and creativity, and there's no other way of earning an income other than starting a business underneath the floorboards of your house if necessary.
Exactly. And
you've identified this.
Yeah, so I've identified this as a way in which you can solve those problems. So there are two problems that people that I've noticed that people have been...
And we'll probably come back to those problems after this break, and also the name of the organisation, which I don't know if you founded it, but it sounds fantastic, the work you're doing in Melbourne for Cambodia.
Thank you.
Come back soon after these messages.
Little baby, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna sing you a lullaby. When you're sleeping safe and sound, you've got the proudest dad in town. I remember when I first saw you, your heart beating as you grew. We'll read you stories to help you dream. Your mommy and I are a perfect team. I can't wait to hear you sing or watch as you put on a wedding ring. One day you'll have children too. Remember the times I sang to you.
Come on, fellas. Let's get down there.
Hang on. Where's Dave?
Oh, hey, fellas. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh?
Real men look out for each other. Don't let your mates drink and drown.
My name is Logan. I'm 12 years old and I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. My muscles are degenerating and I was put into a wheelchair 2 years ago. Soon I won't be able to move at all. The majority of people affected will not live past their 20s, including me. So we need your support to improve our quality of life until a cure is found.
Welcome back. Well, let's get straight back to where we were. And you've started an organisation, or that is an organisation built around?
It's in the process of being established.
Oh, well, you're founding it, are you?
Yes, I'm founding it.
Oh, wow.
It's my research, it's my baby, so I've been working on it for a while. So basically what it is, it's going to be called the Encore Exchange Secretariat, and it'll be a social enterprise. The reason why it'll be a social enterprise is so it can remain independent and also be sustainable.
Yeah.
Obviously, the NGO model can work for some
non-government organisations, yes.
Can work for some organisation, but in this sense it won't work for this secretariat because it needs to be independent and sustainable.
So what's the name again?
The Encore Exchange.
Encore, and it's a friendship society, as it were, that type of registration?
Essentially, but the purpose is to strengthen the bilateral economic, cultural and people-to-people links. So a matter of just assisting with the implementation of future and present agreements such as the ASEAN Australian Free Trade Area and also other programs that are in place, but also to develop new ways to, as I spoke to before, nurture that innovative spirit.
That's right.
And
that's where we were.
And to also essentially to be able to create direct links.
But maybe with this and a connection with Australia, there's a bit of infrastructure being formed that wouldn't probably happen in Cambodia, hey? By itself. Without you doing this, it wouldn't develop.
No, exactly. And the problem that there were two problems that I highlighted was more of nurturing the innovative spirit, teaching them how to use their resources that they have, because Cambodia has a lot of resources, but the problem is that because we do have a generation gap, because due to the wars and conflicts in the country, there's that missing generation of people who have the training, who have the education to be able to do things with the land, do things with their amazing talent
because such
and
a
creativity.
long war has stopped education, like it's virtually taken a whole generation out because they were preoccupied with survival.
Yeah, exactly. But now Cambodia has come a long way in the sense of development, and there's no harm with other countries such as Australia and New Zealand helping with this development. So we've helped in the past with just maintaining peace, and now it's our job to make the economy better, create individual prosperity, create wealth.
Yep.
And by doing that, we will combat the one problem that people are always talking about, reducing poverty.
Yes.
Because the spending in Cambodia is almost on par with Australia. So in Australia we would get noodles for $9, and in Cambodia it's $3. So it's the same, but the minimum wage is massive. So it's about in Cambodia it's 160, and then obviously here it's $16.73 an hour, and it's 160 a month. So what our I suppose mandate would be is to research ways in which we can help nurture and cultivate the things that are already there. So this innovation, this passion and drive that these people already have, and the way is obviously to create the direct links. So the primary function of the Secretariat would be to seek out, implement, encourage and promote effective ways in which you can create better links between in business and culture and education. So just to have that continual dialogue and also to help implement it. And it's also to foster a culture of understanding that people need to understand, because there's always this this culture that, you know, why are you coming into my country and taking over my country? They don't. It's divided. It's divided at the moment, because there are those people who care about human rights, and there's those people who care about the economy. But you can bring those two things together, and I personally believe, because Australia, we already have the frameworks in place. We already have our commissions, our fieldwork commissions, we already have our Australian standards of practices, that if you work together with Australia and New Zealand, that you can help bring those two things together, because you need the economy, you need investment, and you need trade for the country to grow in order to implement ways in which you can assist with human rights. And so that's why I believe... You're
at the very beginning really with your vision.
Yeah.
And I think it really is a vision of yours, but your friends and people, and the, you know, you're a particular generation, a very interesting...
So it's based on...
You've come through with this experience, and wow, there's the answer.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly, because it's based on, obviously, I'm a libertarian, so I do believe in individual merit and individual prosperity, because you need to be able to prosper yourself in order to help others, whether we like to accept it or not.
What would be one or two, well, it's starting this organisation, but like what be a concrete example of how, well, Australians in Melbourne can get involved in helping Cambodia through the
Definitely. So there are many ways. At the moment, in August, I'm going to go on a research and scoping tour, hopefully just getting a bit more understanding of what it is that we need to work on. One of the things that the royal government of Cambodia has earmarked is the agriculture, commercial agriculture.
Wow.
Because there is a situation in Cambodia at the moment, in the media they refer to it as land grabs. But the story behind that is that it's because there are people who, they've owned the land, it's a family land, they've been on it for many, many years. But the problem is that they don't have the education to cultivate the land and to turn it into a viable business. So they sell the land off to someone else. They sell the land off to another private citizen.
So you're selling where everything's going to be
so just
produced.
like, but that's because they have squandered away. Not, that's probably a harsh word, but it's the same as in Australia. If the farmer cannot afford if he does not want to continue with his farming business, he sells it to someone else. And if he were to stay on the land, the new owner has the right to get the government and the law enforcement involved. That's our first project. Our first project is to be able to bring to raise money in other ways. So through the enterprise, to bring those farmers over to Australia.
Because of course we're pretty good at farming here in Australia.
So, and
what a wonderful initiative.
To exchange our knowledge with theirs. In the whole saying that you need to teach someone to fish. Don't give them a fish, because that's what we've been doing. That's our problem. We've been giving them fish and the fish runs out. And that's exactly what's happening. We don't have, Australia doesn't have billions of of money to give away. But what we can give away is what we have learnt. And what we have learnt has worked.
Kylan, thank you so much for joining us here on Channel 31 Migration Stories. We'll have to check in on you again.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been watching Migration Stories. My name's Rich MELfeed, and please tune in again to NAT Chat, same time next week.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah, the results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
Now it's time for a quick reminder of programs coming up tonight on MELfeed.video, so please stay with us.
Hallelujah. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam
Welcome to Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name. And today we're speaking with Lindsay McKenzie, who's the co-founder of Betel Australia. As you'll be familiar with these programs, we have two interviews. The first is to establish the spiritual background, and in this case of Lindsay, and then in the second interview to see the way in which that is translated into action in the world. And Betel Australia is the action part of it. So first, to explore Lindsay's spiritual roots. Lindsay, how did it start? From a child, what was your spiritual founding?
Well, I grew up in a home where we went to church each Sunday, but it was more than just a cultural thing. It was my parents were practicing, and that amazed me because I realised that other kids at school, their parents were different.
Yes.
But it didn't really change anything. But I followed through with that going to church lifestyle. Went to high school, and I think a crunch came when I didn't get through what was matriculation in those days.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, wow, life does change. And there are choices in this. And I thought, wow, this is like the first time that of realising that I had to take my life, take charge of it.
Yes.
And the decisions I made had consequences. Yeah.
And so did that challenge your faith? Was that or was that built into your faith?
It did really, because I thought, well, this is not fantasy world anymore. It's not sort of magic. This is not magic wand kind of thing. You know, you can pray, but there are other factors that, you know, it's not, God is not a big Santa Claus up there. He's just going to benignly grant all your requests. There's responsibility in that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. That about what age would have it been that you discovered that at matriculation age? Was that?
Well, that was a big blow to me. And Mum, being a very practical person, said, "Well, if you don't get through matric, you're going out to work." The thing was, although my brother and my sister knew exactly what they wanted to be when they left school. My brother a mechanic, my sister wanted to be a secretary, and you know they've done that, and they still are in different ways. It's developed, but. And I thought, people asked me, I said, I don't know what I want to do. I've got no idea. And Mum then said, well, she took things into, if you like, into her own hands. But she said, you come with me, I want to do some job interviews. And I'm thinking, horrors, what's that all about, you know?
Yes.
So we did. Anyway, the end of that was I joined Kmart in those days as a trainee store manager. Kmart was only fairly new. I started off at East Burwood, and then because it was so new, we were being pushed up through the ranks fairly quickly. But then that produced its own stress. I thought, wow, what is this all about? Am I going to be a corporate person the rest of my life? Is that what, you know, and I thought, is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing? I mean, it might have been a good thing for some people, but I thought, I don't know whether that's what I want to do. But I didn't know what I did want to do.
No.
And then I thought, well, hang on, where's faith? I'm praying, but God's not answering. And I went through a time where it was quite black, and I thought, maybe all this doesn't really work, and everybody knows it, but they're just going along with this cover-up.
The practice.
I thought, this is a cover, because it really doesn't work, but no one's really want to tell you it doesn't work. And it was a dark time. I thought, well, if it doesn't work, I'm not going to do it. But in the middle of that, I can't tell you what, you know, when exactly, but there was just a gradual understanding that the God was real. Now, how did that happen? I don't know. It was just like he broke through that darkness. I say he because there was a personality. It wasn't just me being ignorant, getting more information. It was like, there's someone out there who really wants me on their team, and it's God, and he doesn't care that I've messed it up.
That's very interesting. So was it sort of a just an awareness
Yeah. And probably when I look at it, it was everything that I'd been taught, sort of the pieces coming together, but it was like the light was sort of on those pieces, whereas before it was like, yeah, okay, that's interesting, but it doesn't. It was like, this is real, and it's real personally for you, Lindsay, right now, if you want it.
And how old were you then, do you think?
22.
22.
I can remember almost, yeah, it was February 1979, I was 22.
And so what happened then? You were still at Kmart when that happened?
And I figured that's good. I understand more than I did, so I'm going to really translate that into my work. But it was like all of a sudden, from that, it was like something had happened. I would go to work, but there was no excitement about it anymore. That bothered me. I thought, gee, this began to show. And, you know, the boss would say, oh, something's happened. You're not really, you're not on the ball. I'm thinking, I'm trying hard, I really am. And it was like, there was something happening inside of me, and I didn't know what it was, but looking back, it was like I was being drawn from one lifestyle, if you like, into another, but I didn't know the full picture. Right. It was like one door was closing and another door yet to be defined was opening. And there was this time of limbo. And I resigned from the job because I just couldn't do it anymore. And it's not fair, I thought, to keep plugging away at this. And I took time out. I was like, I did nothing really in a very work sense for 3 months.
Okay. And so that was and we are heading up to a break, so this is an opportune moment. So there was this transformation in your perspective of life. Would that be a reasonable description?
Yes.
So
and my understanding of the Christian message.
Right.
I think that was it. I understood it. Like I understood what Jesus was on about. Before I learned it was all rote. It was up here. I'd even taught it to others.
Thanks, Lindsay. We'll go to a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Statistics show 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday. Help break the silence on child sexual assault. Go to bravehearts.org.au.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
Every minute, every hour,
every mother and father,
every sister and brother,
every son and every daughter,
everyone you see,
everyone you cheer,
everyone you watch,
and everyone you hear. Everyone you meet.
Everyone you know.
Everyone you love.
Everyone is affected.
Reach out and get connected.
Here are some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline, 1300 655506.
1300 655506.
It could change your life.
Welcome back to Watching Harmony and Diversity. And we're speaking with Lindsay McKenzie, who's the co-founder of Bethel, Australia. And Lindsay's in the process of describing his spiritual roots. Lindsay, you got to the point where it seemed as though there was a God incident, if you like,
yes,
of an illumination.
Yep.
And you were about 22 years old. Mm-hmm. What happened from there?
Well, I think just to put a word to it, I began to understand the word faith, what it meant, as far as, you know, before it was like the Christian faith or the Muslim faith, or like it was like synonymous with religion, but instead of using the word religion, used faith. But I understood, or began, I'm still trying to understand it, what it means when Paul the Apostle talks about faith is the substance of things unseen or things hoped for, but the guarantee of something that you cannot touch. And I realize, still realizing, that there's that connection there with God through Jesus, if you want to put it that way. That is, there's faith becomes something you do, you receive, you understand, and you take a step into the unknown, although it's not completely unknown, but yeah, a lot of it's unknown. So obeying a command, if you like, or an instruction, even though you don't quite fully understand what's going on here, full of doubt the whole time, but taking those steps anyway. And I believe that I do believe that doubt is a friend of faith, because you're doubting, but you're moving out anyway. And so I'm saying that because in this 3-month period, I thought, what do I do from now? What's my life? You know, I know God's here. I know He's guiding me. I know He will guide me. I don't know how He's going to do it. And then when it started to happen, I think, yeah, but I want to control this more than I'm doing. But it was like control was not part of the picture. It was obedience without control. But there was trust in there. It was safe, even if it didn't seem logical. It was safe. And so I began to think, well, okay, I'm going to try just different things. Someone said, why don't you learn more about this faith? Why don't you go to a Bible college? Or I thought, oh, okay, I hadn't thought of that. So I signed up. I was living in Tasmania at the time, in Launceston, and there was a Bible college. It was a 24/7 residential. I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. So I signed up. I only realised that it had a particular emphasis. It was a missionary training college.
Oh, okay.
I didn't understand what that meant at the time. But I thought, well, if I teach the Bible, that's all I'm interested. But another thing I liked about it wasn't one particular church that was running this show. It was an inter-church, if you like, board, mission that was. I liked that. I think in all this, well, it doesn't really matter what label you put on it. It's going back to those very things that Jesus said and putting them into practice. So, long story short, as I went to that missionary training college, I saw the world was bigger than what I imagined, and as a process, I guess, of elimination, I realised that my life was going to take a turn, but it wasn't going to be here in Australia. But I didn't know where. It was going to narrowed down to Spain, and so I made all preparations to go to Spain. Having said that, my mother, who was my teacher, and particularly and Dad too, they thought, Horace, no, you don't have to sort of. They taught me these things, but now when I began to run with them, they sort of think, wow, my goodness, we hadn't counted that. But then they became my best supporters.
Yes.
But that was their initial reaction. And yeah.
Well, it would be, because where Spain drops out of
the
sky.
Exact opposite on a world globe. I think Wellington, New Zealand is the exact point that if you drill through Madrid, you get to Wellington. Or just off the coast. So like it was the other end of the world. Where's Spain? Let's look at it on a map.
And so did you have anything idea in your mind as to what you might do in Spain?
Not really. Just I met someone who was actually working there, and they said, look, come to Spain. Spain is really going through a whole social change. Upheaval would probably be the better word to use. Just come out of a 40-year dictatorship under General Franco, where it was a very watertight kind of that came out of the Civil War, and it was a society that had a complete rejection of religion. having been under a right-wing dictatorship. And so it was a mission. So I found myself there with not just other people from other different church backgrounds, but cultural backgrounds. And that was a real eye-opener for me. You know, I thought everyone thought like Australians, don't they? You know, and I had to realise that, you know, part of the issue was that me adapting to Spain and learning Spanish and learning the culture. Another part of me had to learn to adapt to different ways of looking at life and faith through other cultures, languages, European, American, New Zealand.
Right. So this was a really a powerful grounding for this little Australian boy who sort of landed. It sounds to me. Yeah.
Somewhat, yes.
Yes, yes. But Madrid had a big influence. There was something that happened there. Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah. So we were there. I met another one of the other cross-cultural workers called Elliot Tepper from the States. And we clicked and we decided that we could work together with the idea of making Christianity something real to a people that had thought they'd had it, but really just received a very cultural version of it under a dictatorship where it became a forced thing. So we thought, how do you engage with people, normal people in the street, to bring the reality of what Jesus was talking about? We're not talking about religion, just the reality of a Christian lifestyle.
Thanks, Lindsay. Join us again after the break.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3, yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy. Here are the current weather readings for Melbourne, Geelong, Ballarat, Shepparton, Bendigo and Echuca on the MELfeed video weather wall. It also includes tomorrow's forecast and expected minimum temperatures in these areas overnight. This is the MELfeed video weather wall on a different sort of TV. MELfeed Video.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Lindsay McKenzie, who's the co-founder of Bettel Australia. And Lindsay's describing how he's in Madrid with a fellow Christian, and they're saying, what can we do in Madrid to grow something Christian? What did you do, Lindsay?
Well, of course, we're talking about growing something Christian in a country that is understood to be Christian. And that wasn't what motivated us to go there, was to see the reality of that on the ground. And it wasn't happening. Spain, after a dictatorship, the average Spaniard just wanted to be a Europe like the rest of Europe, have lots of material things, and all of a sudden all these things. Even when I was there, just electrical things started flooding in, and people said, "Oh, let's go after that." And it was really hard trying to get people really interested in genuine spirituality. But there was a group that had all the time in the world for us. It wasn't the people we would have chosen, it was the local heroin addicts. And we thought, no, that's not the profile of the people that we planned on working with, and certainly wasn't my experience, life experience. I mean, drugs, even cigarette smoking, and drinking alcohol was just so foreign to me. And I thought, wow, these really can be, people say keep the main thing the main thing. Well, the main thing for us was reaching the average Spaniard with the good news of Jesus in a country that had just been blown apart by all sorts of divisions and etc. But day after day, the people that kept coming up to us when they'd see us just walking by were the local addicts. And at first it was like we were a soft touch and they could give us spin a bit of a yarn and get some money from us. That was their motive. And we were a soft touch, and they did get money off us until after a while we realised this is not really helping them, So we began to build up just friendships with them, and after a while we said, well, we can help you, but it's not money. What you really need is just to get dry, go to a rehab centre. We can find you one that's free of charge, and we'll go from there. If you're willing, our part is we'll take you up and we'll leave you there, and you don't have to stay if you don't want to, but we'll take you up. And so we began these sort of journeys, 4 hours drive up to the Basque Country, which is this small rehab centre that was there with a very sincere man who just opened up his farmhouse, really. But he was willing to take them on and work with them. So that was the limit, we thought, of our involvement with these drug addicts, until one day, just walking, I was on my own, a very ordinary day, nothing spectacular, just doing a very normal thing like going shopping for food, and I was living in an apartment by myself. Then I wasn't married at the time, and this guy called Raoul came up to me running, sweating, just out of breath, and he said, "You Lindsay, you got to help me. I'm so glad to see you. You got to help me." And because help in those days meant trying to arrange for him to go to a rehab centre. And I said, "Well, we can do something on Monday." He said, "Yeah, but you don't understand. You don't understand. I've got a court order. I can't leave Madrid until this court case comes up in 2 weeks' time. But I really need help right now." And I don't know why. I still don't know what made me do it. But I just opened my mouth and I heard myself say to Raoul, "Why don't you come to my house for those 2 weeks?" And as soon as I said it, I thought, "What did you just say, you idiot?" And he kind of jumped. He said, "Oh, that would be great. Yes." I thought, "No." We're supposed to, this is not. And I'm thinking, how can I get out of this? And I thought, oh, maybe if I put in a condition that he cannot possibly fulfill, that he will, I'll get out of this honourably, but I've put my foot in it badly, and this is not looking good. So I said to him, "Look, yeah, but," because I knew that drug addicts were anything but punctual, I said, "You've got to be at my house at 9 o'clock the next morning or the whole deal's off." Thinking, I'll get out of that, foot and mouth disease on steroids. Anyway, the next day at 9 a.m. on the dot, there was Raoul with his bag at the door, and I didn't know what to do. So I said, "Well, come in." And I just started thinking, well, what sort of rules are we going to have? We're going to have some rules here. So I said, blurting out like, "Well, if you can't go anywhere on your own. If I go anywhere, you got to come with me. And if you go anywhere with approval, I'll go with you." And they were kind of the only rules we had. And so he went through withdrawal in my house, and in that time there was a spiritual thing going on in his life which I wasn't aware of. And he said, "You're talking about Jesus all the time, but not sure that I'm ready for that, because I know that from what you're saying, when you receive Jesus' message, it's an all or nothing thing, isn't it?" I said, well, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good understanding of it. It's. He said, well, it's not for me. I said, well, it's okay. We're just doing. I don't know what we're doing, rehab or something. But anyway, it's only for 2 weeks, so we'll see what happens. So after those 2 weeks, something really did happen that changed. He had his, and I don't know exactly what point it happened. I just knew that he had an encounter that was spiritual, that was beyond himself. And he said, you know, one night he said to me, I realized Jesus is real. There's a connection. He kept saying this word. There's a connection. There's a God connection in his own sort of rough way. And he began to ask a lot of questions. He wanted a Bible. He said, I want to read this for myself. But I've seen it, the reality of what I'm reading here, I've seen it in you guys. You're not perfect. You make mistakes. He said, but there's something real here, and I want it for myself.
Isn't that's a real transformation, isn't it?
Mm.
And so Raoul was sort of the catalyst for something which grew to be much bigger.
Yeah, but we did not know that.
No.
Certainly at the time. I wasn't part of the planning at all. In fact, I'm still focused on this 2-week period that I agreed to. But there was a bonding going on between he and myself. There was a brotherhood thing there. And we became friends.
Yeah. Well, it's on the basis of that friendship. We'll need to finish for now. And you're happy to be interviewed again in relation to Bettel on the larger scale?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
You teach us strangers are dangerous, but someone we know is a much more likely threat. You teach us strangers are dangerous, but who will help when you're not around? Create a world without unnecessary fear. Prepare, don't scare.
Hello. I'd like you to put your hand up to the screen and place it on mine. Now, if you drive when you've been taking drugs and you kill someone, this will be as close as you get to your family for a very long time.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
I'll begin with a poem by Yuki Yamamura. She's a female poet, my one of my best friends. And let me read this anyway. And I'll read the Japanese original version first, and then read my English translation. 愛の始まり。引いて、私からお世辞を引いて、ためらいを引いて、伝えられなかった言葉を引いて、染みついた習慣を、数々の諦めを引いて、着ているものを、髪を束ねている紐を引いて、そうしてもう引くものが何もなくなったら、私は体の中のけれど体からは遠く離れたもどかしい感触を頼りにあなたを足し始める。 Beginning of love. Subtracting fair words from me, subtracting hesitations, words I couldn't say from me, subtracting acquired habits, lots of resignation, subtracting what I am wearing, what's binding my hair from me. Then when there is no more thing to subtract from me, I start to grope for a touch inside, but still far from my body, and by way of it, add you to me.
Sister. Her axolotl dips in his cage of water, his polite, unerasable smile swanning him upwards, the rubbery tail-heavy dragon's body tilting down. The tiny golden Aztec eyes, blind, lidlessly slumber through the waters of his kitchen aquarium, like never quite sinking coins or beacons adrift, with scarcely the ghost of a reference to the mythical flicker of the salamander he genetically sidesteps, even surpasses, by his own more modern brand of indestructible. His species kept alive by scientists for a keen ability to regenerate. His limbs, if lost, will soon resprout. Even some parts of the brain, if chewed off by a sibling, grow back. Only the crude lungs connect him to a world outside him. Once a day he noses the surface and breathes, then free falls back down into depths of swirling grit, ever larval, babyish red ragged gills fronding wildly round a blunt head. Sealed by water in the jewel of himself, he survived the pumping of his stomach after gutsing 7 lumps of gravel. Descendant of the Aztec dog god Xolotl, who with mangled hands and feet guided the dead to heaven, his once translucent form refuses catastrophe. More than the ailing tabby, the timorous and watchful high-heeled dog, or the rented fire-prone house, he guards our dangerous childhood pledge to never change. Thank you.
I'm holding up a truck with my chest. My duty to myself and those who traffic dreams by exposing every subtle weakness, each imperfection tempted, to push for maximum utility in the service of reasons as enigmatic and clandestine as this hidden reality, now hopefully expired. Thank you.
This is one piece, and I'll be as quick as I can. This, the liner note series, most of you will know about. I won't go into it now, ask me about it later. This is the piece that I wrote in response to a song by Nirvana called Smells Like Teen Spirit, because I was asked to. It's called Poem for the Anthem for a Generation. So, here we are now, in the year of some God-forsaken Lord 2008, and most of us no longer smell of the spirit. No, we left our teen years a ways back, crushed like a beer can and tossed from a car as we sped from our childhood homes. But we can still binge drink our weekends away, and we're allowed to treat weekdays the same. But time, silly as it seems, has made adults of us, made us change. Some of us motored into centres for higher learning primed with purpose only to surface 2 years in and find we had learnt nothing. Some of us parked ourselves in the daily trading of 5 jobs in 6 years, shifting sideways and grinding stiff gears but not achieving any headway. And some of us formed bands with deformed hands trying to enact the next hard rock revolution but finding all we had was soft clay and powdered disappointment on our skin. So here we are now, still renting rooms in Brunswick lean-tos held up with yoo-hoo and the blown-up bladders of bad goon. Still filling out new start forms or work start forms or please mum spot me $1,000, my car won't start forms, all the while screaming fuck the government and your parents are the enemy. Still carving our first love's name into second-hand guitars and playing 4-bar swamp punk ska in torn bars for nada and dreaming rock star, rock star. Well, here I am now. And all your faces that ponder me prowling so gingerly up on this stage all say the same thing. Here we are now. Entertainers. Well, let me tell you a story. You see, I was 12. The radios in my parents' house were all tuned to AM. My sisters were listening to Bros and NKOTB. My brothers couldn't care less so long as Barnsey featured heavily. And me, I was a mess of top 40 pop rock. And a good boy. I was quiet. I liked to read. Enjoyed my studies. Christ, I was going to become the lawyer I was born for. And then you ruined everything in 4 minutes and 57 seconds. Of course, she helped. Of course, it was a girl who first unfurled this world in front of me like she was casting out the sea. Her name was Sophie, and she was 2 years older than me. She said she smoked to keep the cold away. She told me God was dead and Christ was gay. She called me cheeky little man, and for the life of me, I liked it. And she played her Walkman constantly. Caius, Black Flag, the Dead Kennedys. She cut holes in the side panels of her school dress so the leads could run unseen by teachers through her crackling black hair into her ears, wired like a cyborg in the class. And if you sat beside her, you could see her bra. She said her one great gift was drawing in the dark, perfect little pictures without the aid of sight, so I blindfolded her with my school tie and offered my shirt as a canvas. And right there, on that regulation high school blue, she drew a baby, swimming for $1. But I didn't know why. So surprised, she pulled the headphones from around her neck. She said, "You've got to hear this." And she plugged me in, track 1, side 1, never mind. Well, I think I half kind of laughed and I half kind of cried, but she eyed me with passion and raised up her hands and laid them all nicotine stains and black fingernails either side of my flowering face. And as your filth and bright fury coursed alive inside me, she gave me my very first kiss. I was struck dumb by the drums and the touch of her tongue. She gave me my very first kiss. And right then and there, I sold my soul for a bag of gold full of holes. I swore I'd never grow old or do as I was told. I would not be moulded but boldly uphold the ethos of rock and roll. Well, heavens to Betsy, now I'm 28 and I just passed Kurt's last marker. But I still carry the scars of that day, when she turned on the lights and pressed play. And you're right, with the lights on, things got dangerous. You are still in me. I am still contagious.
I got my big break about 5 years ago.
My big break came 10 years ago.
I got my break about 8 years ago.
If you're over 50 and have recently had a bone fracture from a minor bump or fall, you may have osteoporosis.
If you've had one break from osteoporosis, there's a good chance you'll have another.
Find out more, talk to your doctor, or call Osteoporosis Australia today.
Don't wait for your next big break.
What I love about Australia is Adelaide Central Market. It's where I grew up, hanging out with Mum and great Auntie Kim. I see a lot of migrants buying ingredients that they need to cook dishes that remind them of their culture. And I think that's why food is such a powerful thing when it comes to people understanding each other. On Australia Day, I'm going to come to the market, buy some beautiful produce, take it home, crank out the pizza oven and have a little pool party with my mates.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
I want to get the word out to blokes about a little gland called the prostate. It's only the size of a walnut, but it can cause a whole lot of grief. Prostate cancer deaths pretty much equal breast cancer deaths. The problem is, if you wait too long, it may be too late. It took one of my mates. Don't make me angry. Talk to your doctor about your prostate. And if necessary, get it checked. You'd be nuts to leave it to chance.
Show Me the Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me the Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
And this is a poet by another friend of mine. It's called 19 poem, 19歳の歌 in Japanese. 19歳の歌。景気が狂った。天皇が崩御した。桜が音もなく散った。学生証は薄っぺらでしかも硬かった。後ろ髪の跳ねた友達ができた。講義はサボった。芝生に寝っ転がった。女の子たちは分かりやすい嘘ばかりついた。青空は返事をくれなかった。一つの歌を飽きるまで歌った。思い出したように走った。傘をなくし続けた。カレーライスばかり食べた。図書館の匂いにむせた。読書の扉を開けた。小説の毒が回った。恐る恐る詩を書き、他人に見せなかった。昼よりも夜が長かった。月のかけらに目を痛めた。タバコと交わった。冗談で武装した。小便をするようにビールを飲んだ。ビールを飲むように小便をした。便所の落書きは記憶した。便所紙を贅沢に使った。吐いたら楽になりそうだから吐かなかった。枕なしの雑魚寝をした。3冊100円の古本のような夢を見た。唐突に女の子たちが裸で現れたりもした。女の子たちをよく知らなかった。それでも気分は最高だった。19歳だった。19 poem. The economic boom ended. The emperor died. Cherry blossoms fell soundlessly. My student card was thin and inflexible. My friend had his hair behind, always wrongly curled. I skipped classes. I lay on the turf. Girls always told lies that were too obvious. The blue sky never answered. I sang the same song again and again until it bored me. Ran with no reason. Lost lots of umbrellas. I ate nothing but curry rice. Suffocated with the library air. Opened the gate for the world of books. Poisoned with novels. Wrote poems so timidly I never showed them to anyone. Nights were longer than days. My eyes got hurt by a chip of the moon. I had intercourse with cigarettes. Armed with jokes. Drank beer just like pissing. Pissed just like drinking beer. Memorized graffiti on toilet walls. Used toilet paper extravagantly. Puking would ease me so I wouldn't puke. Slept alongside with friends with no pillow. I dreamed a dream just like used book, 300 yen in 3. In it, girls suddenly appeared naked. I didn't know much about girls, but I felt so fine. I was 19.
I'm not a religious man, but I've chosen this because I think it really speaks, well, it speaks to the poet in me anyway. It's from the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, and I'm calling it Jesse's Stump. And just to allay any fears you might have, Isaiah spoke to me in a dream and assigned all copyright for this to me. So this is Jesse's Stump. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And it shall make him quick of understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins.
I wrote this one on the flight, from Japan to here. And this is to my girlfriend at home. And so I hope David, will send a copy of the tape, to back home. Okay, that's great. Yeah, thank you. So the title is, actually there is no title, but the title should be Senecio, a painting of Paul Klee. And so Paul Klee is a Swiss painter, So Senecio, a painting of Paul Klee. Our room has a painting of Paul Klee. Of course, it's a facsimile. It's called Senecio. We first thought it was the name of a person when I bought it for just $1 and brought it to your room. I kind of saved it from a wooden box of miscellaneous junks in front of a used bookstore. It was pinned to a wall without a frame. On the bed, you said that someone, a Senecio, looked at us. No, or it looks sideways. I said he looks sad or maybe angry. When you moved to another city, you brought him too. It was about when we came to know Senecio was not a person's name, but actually the name of a flower. Or maybe a person's name too, you said. On the white wall of your new place, it was beside an Aboriginal X-ray painting of a kangaroo. They looked very nice together. We lived in different cities for a year, and now you moved in with me. The painting Senecio is on a plastered wall to which our bed touches at its footside. It has no frame yet.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often, we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Coming up next on MELfeed.video.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Coming up next on MELfeed.video. Time's up.
And I'll read a bit different type of poem. And this is by Tokihiko Araki. Hana, which means flower. Hana. 花は自ら落ちることを許されていない。神は妬む神、嫉妬する神であったので、花が美しいまま落ちるのを許さず、醜く枯れていくことを望んだのである。町の人々は通りに面した前庭にそれぞれ花壇を作り、思い思いに花を植えていた。花壇には毎年のように花が咲き、そして枯れていった。ある時、一人の少女が家の壁に花を描いた。その花の絵は美しく、また枯れることがなかったので、町の人々は皆自分たちの家の壁に花を描くよう少女に頼んだ。少女は町の家々のすべての壁に花を描いた。女たちは花壇の花をめでることをやめ、男たちは花壇に水をまくことを忘れた。町の家々の前庭に作られた花壇に花が咲くことはなくなった。しかし、壁に描かれた花は、その美しさを失うことはなく、町は一年を通して花に満ちていた。再び述べよう。神は妬む神、嫉妬する神であった。神は町が一年を通して花に満ち、そして次の一年もまた花に満ち、その美しさを失わないことを許さなかった。そして町は廃墟となった。今日に至る神話。構造化された言語は鳥を射抜く。その鳥は大空の下ではなく、部屋の中にいなければならない。私の中の部屋には窓がないのだから。Flowers. Flowers are not allowed to fall down on their own. God was envious, God with jealous mind, so he did not allow flowers to fall in their beauty, but intended them to wither, or deformed. The town people made flower beds in their front gardens along the streets and planted flowers they liked. In the flower beds, flowers bloomed every year and then died away. One day, a girl painted flowers on the wall of their family home. The flowers were beautiful and never died away, so all the town people asked her to paint flowers on walls of their houses. She painted flowers on every wall of every house in the town. Women quit caring for flowers in flower beds, and men forgot watering them. There were no flowers in the flower beds in the whole town. However, the flowers painted on the walls never lost their beauty, so the town was filled with flowers all along the year. Let me say this again. God was envious, God with jealous mind. He did not allow the town to be filled with flowers that never lost their beauty year after year. Therefore, the town was doomed to ruins. Mythology alive now still. Structured language pierces a bird. The bird must not be under the sky, but inside a room, because the room inside me has no window.
Boat cabin interior. Water's reflection on the face I kiss. Dark shadows across lower deck. He searches for my hatch. And last one. Full moon spawning. An owl's hoot trembles the line.
I'll read some of my haiku here. Maybe both in Japanese and English. Yeah. ふんぬ、曲がって錆びついた釘よ。Our anger, crooked and rusted nails. 鏡にベトベトと指紋と冬の日。Fingerprints on the mirror, winter light. 壊れた船、人を侮る人ばかり。Broken boat, everyone fishes each other. 泣く鉄路、大きなアリが果肉に来る。Wailing rails, giant ants arrive at the pulp. 土くれすべて、つぶやきである夕日に。Cloth and play are all whispers to the evening sun. 名刺交換、口は蜜とトゲに満ち。Business cards are mouths full of honey and thorns. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darren McElwain from AirFM Drive. You can tune into my show from 3 to 6 p.m. on 88.0 in Penrith and also on tunein.com. And apparently, we don't throw rocks. AirFM Drive.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Fabulous Minutes. I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Steve.
And we are down at the Melbourne Clio Expo.
Yes, the third running expo for Clio Bachelor of the Year. We'll see what's out there in store for us.
That's right, it's the latest trends on fashion, health, beauty, must-have accessories, and also we're talking to Kerry Culkin about the stars.
Ooh, I wonder what's going to be.
And what concoction do you have here in hair? It looks fantastic.
Okay, well basically what I'm just doing here is piecing out the hair, just making it a little bit more free and easy, and the non-walking out of the salon look, you know.
Are you going to be using a lot of hairspray? Is that sort of a look that you don't have these days?
Yeah, minimum, not too much. Don't want to look too set and structured, yeah.
Is that where hair's going? A bit more natural?
Yeah, it's very natural now. The straightening is still good, but there's a lot of movement involved, as well as crimping. You know,
crimping's coming back.
Full on, everyone wants their hair crimped now.
Now, what's the secret to a good crimp? How do you make sure it's crimped properly?
What I do is I get sections of it.
Yeah.
I get sections of it, and I spray it, and then I crimp it. Okay. And that way there you get that real step crimp, which is what a lot of people like. It's not so much frizzy, it's more of a step crimp.
Right.
So that's where you put it all over the hair, spray it as you go along, and then that way you get your style.
Should I get something done? So how long is this going to take to finish? What are you going to do?
We're just about done.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. To put a bit of product in it, and she's ready to go.
Right, let's see the final product.
So Jacqueline, we're going to get a bit of a crimping. It went out in the 80s, but we'll get back in there. I must say, you've got to do something about that dandruff you've got there.
I'm surprised
Put her in the shampoo dish.
I'm surprised you can crimp hair this short, though. Sorry? I'm surprised you can crimp hair this short.
You can crimp hair at any length?
Oh, you can crimp hair in any length. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Now, what is it with... It's just the main thing that every hair salon woman must need is a hairspray, and she just does this, makes herself look good, and that's it.
This is the end product. Maria, I've just got a question about the crimping. Yep. It feels gorgeous on the back of my neck, quite warm, but it seriously can't be very good for your hair doing that, like burning it like that with the heat.
It doesn't ruin it as such. If you did it every day, if you do something every day, obviously you're going to pay for it, right? But if it's done every now and then, you're fine.
And how every now and then is every now and then?
Well, let's say once a week when you go out, it does no damage. As long as you put treatments, take care of it, do it well, then you shouldn't have a problem. I mean, you don't get the crimper and burn it for like 10 minutes. Yeah, your hair's going to burn. But if it's done well, and it's only done, let's say, for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes with a crimper, once in a while, when you go out...
It's glossy as a magazine, but unfortunately, if you can't get as close as the stars, you can always come here to the Fox 8 stand and get your photo taken, imprinted against some of the celebrities. So, what celebrity did you choose?
Buffy.
Buffy. Why is Buffy?
Because she's a vampire slayer.
Is she a big Buffy fan? Some have chosen Buffy. I've chose Ali. big Ali McBee fan. Who are you going to stand next to? What celebrities?
Right. Oh, well, my cousin's from overseas, you see. So
Okay, which one?
From Greece.
Which character?
Which one? Is that Hercules?
Hercules. Oh, you're a bit of a ladies' man, are you? Oh, yes, enjoying that one. Have a good time. So what are you girls going to choose? Which one?
Probably Hercules.
Which one? Hercules. What's with the Hercules?
I don't know.
You want a real man,
He's romantic.
You're not a Friends fan? You can be with,
romantic.
he's romantic. Ah, so who are you going to be standing next to?
I think Buffy.
Buffy. You're a Buffy fan?
Yeah, I try to be.
Are you a Cleo reader?
Yeah, I am.
Do you like the magazine?
Yeah, very much.
What does it do for you?
I don't know, it's good reading.
Good reading. You actually read it, you just don't look at the glossy pictures, so there you go. Do you read it as well?
Yep, sometimes.
What sort of things do you read there that you learn from?
Everything.
Like How to Meet Boys?
Yep.
Is it working?
I don't know.
Not today, because it's all full of girls here, isn't it? Any boys here that you've seen it pretty cute?
Not really.
Apart from me?
Not really.
Oh, go on your way. Terrible.
Well, they say you can tell a woman by the way she wears her hair. You be the judge.
Okay, hi guys. We're the Jockey Boys. We're down here doing our thing, getting all the girls excited and hot. What can I say? He's probably the sexiest guy here. He likes to think so anyway.
Yeah, thanks very much.
I'm just the himbo.
Yeah, he makes all the jokes.
So. And yeah, we're turning all the girls on. That's it. Come down and get some free stuff from Jockey.
Baby.
Bye-bye.
Nikki, being a model, of course, one has to be very conscious of one's weight, or everybody else is very conscious of a model's weight.
Yes, I think you've got it in a nutshell there. It's really everyone else is conscious of your weight. Well, once again, living proof of it. I mean, I'm probably a size 8 and all over, and I eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and I don't exercise a hell of a lot not because I don't have the time, just because I'm lazy.
You got a fast metabolism? Or?
Yeah, I've got a very high metabolism. Almost, yeah, beat me up. Almost to the point, and it's lucky genes. My mum's like, but if I don't eat, like, you know, the Maccas 2 or 3 times a week, I go quite skinny, and I actually don't like that look. And a lot of girls have the perception that you do have to be stick thin to be a model, and you would actually not work in Melbourne if you were stick thin. So all of the girls I work with, I do a lot of lingerie work, and all the girls I work with are actually got nice normal physiques or quite curvy, and yeah, the anorexic waif look's been out forever. And
I'm joined here with Tracy, and some of the things that these glossy magazines tend to do is dictate not only fashion but also a woman's sexuality and her sex, and one of the glorious ways of advertising that is great dress sense, I guess. And what sort of outfits are here?
Okay, what we're offering is we're trying to hit the women's market, and a lot of women...
Well, I didn't think it would be the men's market, actually, but then again it could be because it's the men who admire it.
I offered to do the gay Mardi Gras, but I turned it down. A lot of the things that women are looking for are things that make them look fantastic, and this is why we've gone for a more womanly look. This one here is very, very popular.
Do women wear these for themselves or for the guys?
It's a bit of both, but women are tending to look after themselves a bit more now, and they want to look good. And once you look good underneath, it shows in your attitude.
And radiates through. And so, I mean, how much does a little number like this cost, really?
At the moment, this bra here is selling for $49, and we're giving the free brief or string, but normally the whole set would be about $70.
Okay, and this sort of bra you'd be able to wear just by itself? Yes. Or is it some of the undergarments, or something you'd wear over and expose as well?
This one here can be an outer garment, the leopard too. We've also got matinee jackets and stuff that a lot of the girls are buying to wear on the outer, putting little croppy tops, singlet tops on.
What about just a little club top? Can you just wear it by itself?
That one up there.
That one up here?
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, that one there is definitely the hit at the moment.
So how did bras become from undergarments to being exposed as a garment?
Women are a lot more confident now, and they're more than happy to show off their assets, so to speak, and that's what it's all about, being a woman and showing it off.
But do you think women are a bit more conscious now with the beautiful magazines that breast is a thing? It's more, you know, I must get them increased, I must get the, you know, the power of the breast is the power of the woman?
Yeah, that is a place, but a lot of our bras are padded, so if you aren't big, don't worry about getting implants. Our bras will boost you up and in.
we are backstage at the Clio Melbourne Expo, and the girls have just had the final heat for the Vivian's Model Management. Make a average everyday suburban girl a star. So there's some of the stunners back there. Aren't they tall, leggy, skinny, young and beautiful? And stay tuned because we're going to find out who the winner is and have a bit of a chit-chat. I think it'd be also a good idea to see what makes a model. What are the qualities and criteria that make you a supermodel?
No, and how far along are you? I've got 3 weeks to go, so it could well happen. And I keep dreaming that my waters are going to break at the MCG. So that's next weekend, isn't it? Yeah, next weekend, the Carlton game. So I've told a lot of the ladies to bring towels and hot water for cups of tea. My big Crown as well, Crown Entertainment Conference. See on the big screens there? Yes, but it's going to quieten down and I'll be a mum for a while and then I'll get back into things. Oh, great. Okay. No, they're not. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about Vivian's. For over 30 years, Vivian's has launched the careers of many models and celebrities.
Makeup these days?
Fashion magazines, mainly, models, television, bit of everything, but mainly magazines for sure.
What, you look at the magazine and say, oh, that's in, or do do the makeup artists dictate to the magazines?
A bit of both. It all goes with fashion as well. Colours come around with fashion. At the moment, green. You'll see a lot of people with green on their eyes. It also depends on what the person's got. She's got the pastel, sort of the turquoise on, so today I'm doing pink with a smoky dark grey. She's got a beautiful face. I haven't put much on her face, just a bit of powder.
She doesn't need makeup. You're naturally beautiful. What makes you want to put makeup on? What does it do for you?
I don't know. It's just the feeling, I guess.
Do you think you become a better person? You get guys quicker that way, or? Confidence?
Yeah, confidence.
There's a lot of it to do with the magazine. Does it dictate to you that you feel you must wear makeup to feel complete, or not?
I guess it has something to do with it, but yeah.
You don't look at the magazine and go, oh God, I want to be a model like these girls are so beautiful. No? You read it for the real stories, right? Hard-hitting stories.
I'm here with Nikki, and Nikki's actually a model with Vivian's. And Nikki, I'm just wondering, what is it like to be a model? What sort of pressures are there on you to be beautiful all the time?
Well, you actually don't have to be beautiful all the time. Trust me, if you came around my house in the morning and saw me wake up, you probably wouldn't think I was so beautiful.
Do you have bad hair days?
No, I'm pretty lucky with that. It's pretty boring and dead
That's a good start.
It's fairly boring, but I do have bad days, yes. Probably like today. I haven't had too much sleep last night, so I'm fairly tired. But there are a lot of pressures on modelling. I think a lot that people don't understand, and they think it's a glamorous life, and that they only see the pros and not the cons as well. But it is hard work, and you have to obviously maintain yourself all the time.
Nikki, I'm just wondering actually, I mean, of course, well, you can't help but judge a book by its cover. Have you found that sometimes that's been a negative thing for you?
Oh, yeah, definitely, absolutely. I get the problem of when I'm out. It's very hard to find a man. So if there's anyone out there, no.
You're not single, are you?
Oh yes, I am single.
Are you very single?
Very single.
If you were going to be a model in today's age, what would you advise the girls out there to be successful like yourself?
Probably just to, if it's their dream to do it, then go for it. I'm actually shorter than a lot of the other models, and I was actually told when I was about 15 from a lady in Adelaide, oh, you know, you're too short, you'll never make it as a model. So,
what is your height?
I'm only 5'6".
And what are you supposed to be a model?
Usually around about 5'8" and over. So, but hey, I'm living proof that
Can't get to make it on Clio magazine cover. You can always come to the Clio stand and get to be on a cover. Are you going to be on the Clio cover, are you?
Yes, we are.
What makes you want to do this?
They made me do it.
Oh, they're forcing you. Are you doing a group thing?
Yes, a group thing.
You don't want to be just the star on the cover? No. Do you want to be on the real Clio?
I'd love to.
Have you applied at the Clio stand?
Yeah, we have actually.
No luck yet?
Further up there, is it?
Oh, we're too old.
But never too old to read it, right?
No.
You're a reader?
Yes.
Every issue?
Every month, yes, every
And what do you get out of the magazine?
Just everything, fashion and beauty and everything, yeah.
Do you think it's a false concept, the beauty thing? You know, that you must be waved, you must look like this, you must look like that, or?
No. I mean, you can sit there and look at it, but you don't have to follow it, yeah.
Do you follow it?
Not all of it.
Not all of it. Okay, what parts would you follow?
Some of the fashion, some of the beauty things that they refer you to, try this or try that, but that's about
You're
it.
into the beauty products and stuff?
Yeah.
What's the most common thing that a female would use?
Cleansers and toners, and a lot of the makeup.
And of course, makeup goes hand in hand. And here I am at the Poppy stand, and I'm joined by Irene. And Irene's going to give me the look. So what have you got in store, Irene?
At the moment, Poppy has released her heat range, and in the heat we've got 3 different glosses, a very sheer red, this one which is called 80 degrees, this is 90 degrees, it's a rich burgundy red.
Wow, that is high impact. Very glossy.
Very glossy, yep, she loves her reds. And the other one is 100 degrees, and that's like a real rich red, actually very similar to your top, but a little bit too much for you today.
And where's this gloss influence coming from?
Who knows? Probably the catwalk. All the girls today on the fashion stage had their makeup done by us, and the actual the lady that coordinated the actual show wanted pink, so they had pink lips, pink cheeks, and lots of gloss. It actually comes better on the. You can actually see it. It's a lot better on the cameras and in the photos. I like to feather a little bit onto the lips, and that just helps the gloss to stay on longer. And there's another product which before you put the gloss on, and because it's wax based, when you put the gloss on, it actually prevents it from seeping.
Fantastic.
Yep, you don't.
So no bleeding on the lips.
Yep, no bleeding with glosses as well as glossy lipsticks as well. So you might have some other brand of lipstick and you find that constantly bleeds. You can still use it. Just grab something like a lip liner and this around the edges, and it'll prevent it from bleeding.
Our other friend Sarah, she works for.
Yeah, I like that colour. By doing that, so now that you've done that, you've got to make sure that when you do that, you've actually drawn lip liner all the way around the edges.
Okay.
Because when you do that, you're actually putting lip gloss over that lip line, so that's what causes the bleeding as well sometimes.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, then I could just touch up the sides if you want with lip liner.
Okay. Wow, I'm ready to pucker up. Just wonder where those Cleo bachelors are.
We have Maria, we have Jordana, and we have Megan. They'll be working all day here on the lifestyle stage, presenting different types of look, whether it be short, long, t-shirt, lots of movement, relax. This is just the beginning. It's going to be going on for the next 10 minutes, so stay tuned, and they'll be with you for more. Ladies, take it away.
Joined here by Marnie, who's had the hair done. Have you done the makeup yet?
Not yet.
Is that the next process?
Well, unfortunately, Poppy's all booked out.
Oh, really? Yeah. So you a Cleo reader?
I am.
Religiously?
Religiously, yes.
So do you see it as that's reality? That's what you want to be like, the models in the magazine, or?
Not necessarily the models, but the clothes. Definitely the clothes they're wearing. So
what brings you here today?
Good Girls Day Out.
Good Girls Day Out?
Yeah.
What are you here to learn?
Oh, well, I was hoping to learn have some job advice in advertising or fashion, something like that.
You don't want to be a model?
No.
You're looking halfway there.
Thanks.
You haven't had your photos done over there?
Almost there.
Almost there?
Almost.
Any freebies?
A few little of the Pond's cleansers. Got about 5 of them every time we've passed.
Don't want panda eyes, do we?
No, never.
So what are some girly tips that you could offer that you've learned today?
Crimpers are good.
Crimpers are...
Back in fashion, definitely.
Were you around in the 80s?
Just.
Did you crimp then?
No, I didn't.
Didn't have any hair then?
Well, not exactly, no.
Too small?
Yeah, just a little, yeah.
So is crimping fun?
Crimping's fun, not the whole head, but just the ends.
Then why not the whole head? Too much?
You remember the 80s?
Oh, I do, very much. I'm old.
You don't say anymore.
I'm just wondering whether you read Clio magazine.
Certainly do. Yes, I do.
And any particular sections you go to, the horoscopes or the fashion tips or the diet tips?
Occasionally I go to the horoscopes, but generally if there's a good article, I'm more interested in sometimes the cover stories. Yep.
What do you look for in a woman's magazine?
I think something in a magazine that can be having a lot of information for women of today, because I think a lot of girls rely on information that they get from their friends, or spouses or husbands. I think the most important thing is that you need to do your own research and to find what applies to you.
To Cleo. The first section I tuned, of course, is the horoscopes. And the lady who writes the horoscopes is just behind me here, Kerry Culkins. How are you?
I'm very well, love, although I'm down to a single cell at the moment, so don't ask me anything intelligible.
Kerry's had a very, very full-on day now. You're a sixth-generation white witch and psychic.
Probably more.
Really?
Well, when we go tracing back a bit, we got back that far. But I think I can trace my lineage to La Boursan and Madame Brinvilliers.
I'm not familiar with La Boursan and Madame Brinvilliers.
Your ancestors, your family were all witches.
Now, if you'd been here, well, don't forget witch only means wise and witchcraft means ways of the wise. If you'd been here yesterday, my daughter and my granddaughter are up on the forum with me, Kerry Ann and Linda.
So you're passing it on to them and so forth and so forth.
As your grandmother did to you, from what I read.
Yes. My grandmother was a wonderful lady. What's your date of birth, love?
31st of the 5th, 68.
You've got a long memory for anything you're interested in. You're not known for your tact. You're going to attract every no-hope, a lame dog, sick cat in sight.
So true.
Attract.
Okay, me. 3, 4, 6, 9.
You've got a long memory for anything you're interested in. You're a perfectionist. You never measure up to your standards and never judge yourself. You're in this world to make it a beautiful place. You've got to be careful with picking things up at the moment. If there's a nice old lady lying on the footpath over there, you better be careful the way you pick her up. You've got to watch that lower back and kidney area at the moment. Be a little bit careful around it. You are your own worst enemy in as much as you're never going to measure up. So never judge yourself.
So well said.
Not bad.
You are the winner. How does it feel to be the face of the future?
I just can't believe it. It's crazy, I think. I don't know.
What, so you come here and you're just saying, yeah, I'll just check it out, try the Cleo thing, thought you'd write your name down and bang, well, here you are, going to be a model of the future.
Oh, I don't know. I just sort of thought, I might as well, because, I don't know, friends said to do it, and so I just sort of, why not? I've really had nothing to lose, so.
So where do you go from here? Where do you think you're going to go from here?
I don't know. I don't see myself like this.
No, you don't see yourself up there the catwalk in Paris and so on?
Oh, I just don't know why, yeah. I mean, maybe eventually, but I just don't see myself.
Pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I just can't believe it.
Well, how do you see yourself as?
No, I just see myself as being the same as just the average person, no better or worse than anyone else. That's it.
Nerve-wracking?
Yeah, I was so scared I could hardly smile when I was on the thing.
Well, here's to a bright future, and we've got some of the runners-up. And how was your experience of doing this?
It was good. Nerve-wracking. But
now, why is it so nervous up there?
Because there's so many people watching, and
all your friends are out there probably egging you on, giving you support?
Well, actually, yesterday I didn't have anyone here at all because I was working. And I just signed up in my lunch break, and so I was here by myself. But
so what made you want to do it?
I just walked past, saw it, thought, why not?
Have a shot, and wow, look at you now. And how old are you now?
17.
Oh, geez, the models start off young. And how old are you?
16.
16, we're going down in age. And what made you want to do this?
Just the same, I just walked past and I thought, why not have a go?
So the question is, okay, what happens if the agency says to you, okay, you're going to be out there, you're going to be on the cover of a magazine, we're going to give you ridiculous amounts of money, you know, 30,000, 40,000, but you have to leave school. What would you do?
Probably leave school and then maybe go back if I finish.
Good answer. What would you do?
Yeah, I think that's the same.
Take the money and run? What would you do?
I think I'd stay at school.
Stay at school. Why's that?
Because I think that's probably something better that you can fall back on if it didn't work out properly. So.
Very true. And what were you going to be doing?
Well,
studying?
Yeah, I'm at university, so I can always defer uni.
Oh, you got the option. You got the defer.
Yeah.
Each week, MELfeed.video presents the CEC Report. The Citizens Electoral Council of Australia presents a weekly program of political and economic analysis with policy solutions which are aimed at saving Australia from economic collapse and also suggest ways in which interested members of the public can assist in their campaigns. The CEC report coming up next on MELfeed.video.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do. 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global and acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say good day. You got a friend.
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it. It's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to the CEC report for the 21st of September 2018. I'm Elisa Barwick, and joining me today is CEC Research Director Robert Barwick. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Elisa. Good news is, I got some good news. From today's the equinox, so today the days will be getting longer for us.
And
we're
warmer
coming
in
out of
Melbourne.
winter.
Now on today's show, structural change now on the Royal Commission's agenda, and why is British intelligence letting loose convicted terrorists? So firstly, also in good news, structural change now on the Royal Commission's agenda. So there are signs that the Royal Commission is now open to examining the more critical issue, as we've consistently said, of the structure of banking in Australia. And that's really good news. Now,
Well, it's come up virtually every round of hearings has pointed to this structure is the bigger problem. Finally, the Royal Commission has sought submissions addressing the issue of structure.
yeah, following the last round, which was round 5 of the Royal Commission's hearings, and that was on superannuation, the Royal Commission asked for public submissions on super, and specifically regarding the structural issues that are causing problems. So in their report that they issued after that last round of hearings, their report stated, are there structures that raise inherent problems for a superannuation trustee, meaning a bank or fund manager, being able to comply with its fiduciary duties? And it asked whether there is an inherent conflict of interest raised by vertical integration of the trustees, especially when it comes to banks being integrated with financial advice businesses. The report says, is it possible to say that these conflicts are ever manageable? And it goes on, if certain structures do raise inherent problems, is structural change of entities mandated by legislation or otherwise something that is desirable? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's called break up the banks. Don't let banks own super funds. Because the super funds are there to look after the members. But if they're owned by a bank, the bank is there to make profits for shareholders. And you've got a conflict between the shareholders and the members. And what the track record of Australian banks owning super is, the shareholders make out big from the members because the members get looted, as is the word Dr. Wilson Sy, who's a superannuation expert, uses. The banks have been looting super funds.
So despite the fact that the Royal Commission was, in its terms of reference, not supposed to look at macro-prudential policies, this opens the door to exactly the discussion of breaking up the banks of the legislation which we've got on the table of the Parliament right now, tabled by Bob Katter, MP, for Glass-Steagall banking separation. So, as you mentioned, the Royal Commission solicited submissions, which actually closed today, but already we generated, or at least we've confirmed that we've generated probably over 150 submissions. It could be as many as 500. Which will draw attention to this, and then following the Royal Commission's interim report, which is due shortly, there will be more that we'll do on this. Now, of course, you've just come back from Canberra, so what would be your advice to people of how to move forward with this?
Well, it's what's happened for a long time with the campaign for Glass-Steagall is about half the Liberals and pretty much all the Labor Party are saying, we'll wait to see what the Royal Commission says. And we've been saying, well, look, we don't even know if the Royal Commission is going to say anything. Now we know the Royal Commission probably will, because they've been seeking submissions on it, right? So the interim report is handed down on the 30th. That will either be a big boost for the Glass-Steagall banking separation cause, or we will, after that, and we'll let our viewers know, it might be appropriate to do a round of lobbying of the Royal Commission itself, because the ball's in the Royal Commissioner's court to a large degree, whether he extends the Royal Commission and goes further. The government has basically says he can if he wants, and no one will step in his way politically. No one would be game if he says, I've got to look at this area and this area that's not in the terms of reference. Right now, nobody is going to say you can't do that.
That's right.
So that's something that we might be, but we'll let people know about that. And in general, if I can just comment on the rest of the week, because we've been going roughly once a month to Canberra to meet with members of Parliament, there is real progress in Parliament on the banking issue. There's a stunning turnaround in 12 months since this Royal Commission process has started. And so we know that there's every member of Parliament is attuned to the situation. They're more than aware of it. It's coming from the public. That's bringing it to their attention. That's what they're responding to, nothing else. So when we ask you, the viewer, to get involved, we're only saying it because it works. You start contacting members of Parliament, it works. And we're seeing the progress towards that. So the next landmark will be that Royal Commission interim report, and we'll see where we go from there.
And another sign of the fact that the environment is becoming more and more conducive to this debate about looking at the structures of the banking system, looking at the regulatory structures in particular, is an article in the 19th of September Guardian, and we'll put it up. You'll see that there's a photo at the top of one of our demonstrations out the front of the Royal Commission, in fact. And this article is by Richard Dennis, the Chief Economist of the Australia Institute, and he says that our watchdogs are little more than lapdogs, and calls for a Royal Commission into regulatory culture, including the regulators' collusion with the banks. And he
That's
goes,
the right word.
Yeah, he didn't use the word collusion, that's my word, but
No,
nonetheless, it's exactly what he describes. He goes after the neoliberal economic theory that is behind this regulatory culture, including privatisation, outsourcing, competition policy. And he basically says it all puts the onus on the consumer, that the consumer has to shop around for the right price, the right deal. But as he points out, in that kind of a situation, the consequences for the vulnerable are very, very grim. And he uses the example of a boxing ring, which can be flat and perfect, but if you've got a heavyweight in one corner and a featherweight in the other, it's not going to be a very fair game. And of course, this is Scott Morrison's attitude, everything he's been saying, the victim blaming, that people that were diddled by the banks should have done, a bit more research and so forth. It's your fault if you don't shop around. It fits into that perspective, and he concludes the article saying, when it comes to border protection, recreational drug use and welfare fraud, Australians have been told that we need tough cops on the beat and zero tolerance. But when it comes to billion-dollar corporations ripping off vulnerable people, we are told we need to engage in dialogue to create a culture of voluntary compliance. Now, one other thing I wanted to show, which is the shifting environment, is a video of Labor MP Mark Butler. And of course, remember that Bill Shorten had previously called for an extension of the Royal Commission. And we want to show this clip here of Mark Butler intervening in Parliament in defence of the Bank West customers.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the Banking Royal Commission has so far uncovered truly outrageous tales of corruption and appalling behaviour, including charging the dead, preying on the elderly and the disabled and defrauding Indigenous Australians. This Prime Minister, as Treasurer, voted against establishing a Royal Commission into his mates at the big banks 26 times. He derided the notion as a populist whinge, recklessness, and tried to frame the calls for a Royal Commission as a mere political ploy from Labor. Indeed, when finally setting up the Royal Commission, the Prime Minister, the now Prime Minister, said it was only because politics was doing damage to our banking system that he'd done so. In reality, it has been our banking system which has been doing damage to thousands of ordinary Australians, destroying lives, homes and families. Di and Max Locke from my electorate used to run the Narracourt Hotel in the southeast of South Australia. They're small business people who have always run small businesses and are justifiably proud of their record. In 2008, the Commonwealth Bank purchased Bank West, which financed the Lockes, and they were assured at the time that there would be no changes to the loan or their operations. Just a few weeks later, though, their accountant started receiving calls and emails saying that the bank did not want to refinance the Lockes' successful business because the value of the Narracourt Hotel wasn't high enough, all through an internal decision around revaluation by the bank. Once their loan facility expired, they would have to pay out the entire amount. They'd never missed a mortgage payment, and yet the bank took their home, took their business. They weren't interested in the consistent, reliable mortgage payments by the Lockes. They just wanted to get rid of the old customers. And in fully 1/3 of cases, the fault was entirely due to the conduct of the banks and not at all due to the conduct of the borrowers. When this conduct came before the Royal Commission, non-monetary defaults were skimmed over because there was, in their words, no financial motive. Yet that is not what the Ombudsman found, and it is not the experience of thousands of victims. Even where borrowers have been able to secure loans with other banks, they were thwarted by the practices of the Commonwealth Bank, which had taken over Bank West. The Prime Minister has encouraged people unhappy with their banks to switch, and that's exactly what some victims tried to do. In one case, a business owner, told that his loan facility would not be continued with Bank West, sought refinancing through Westpac, and it was granted. But 2 days before the finance went through, Bank West placed his business into receivership. He had never missed a payment. This Banking Royal Commission has been too rushed. This government had to be dragged kicking and screaming to do it in the first place, and now they have pushed it to a timeline that means that thousands of stories, thousands of victims and thousands of wrongs are not being told. The Royal Commission must be extended so that it can hear all of the victims' voices. The Lockes thought that they'd have their day to tell their story, and instead they've been silenced again.
So, Lisa, we've cut out there the details of the case, but it's worth watching the whole clip if people want to find it on YouTube. The more important point is this: Mark Butler has responded to his constituents, which is, like I said, that's what happens now. They know they can't ignore it. And he's even gone so far as to accurately say, and he's right, that the Royal Commission didn't make the right findings on this Bank West case, which is true, because it hasn't had enough time, right? So members of Parliament, it's unusual for Labor members of Parliament to go further than an official body. They're always being sort of dragged along with it. Yeah. He's been willing to do that because it's been impressed upon him by his constituents. This is the change in culture in Canberra right now.
Now we have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to talk about the housing bubble aspect of all this.
Had enough of the bad news about carbon dioxide and climate change? Wood is one solution. Trees take CO2 from the air and store it in their wood. They're also renewable, unlike concrete and steel. But the wood you choose should be recycled or from certified plantations or forests. This helps protect areas of high conservation value. So next time you're building or buying something, make it wood and do your world some good.
If you choose to speed,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose not to instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
Welcome back to the CEC report, where we're discussing the fact that the Royal Commission is suddenly open to examining structural changes, or structural issues, I should say, in the banking system. Now, of course, one of the big issues right now is the housing bubble, this massive edifice, this bubble that's been constructed. And again, attention is being drawn to this more and more seriously. And we'll just show a quick clip here from the 60 Minutes program, Bricks and Slaughter, which was shown on Sunday night, which gives a bit of a sense of this.
So Lisa, that show was pretty dramatic. I was nowadays you can watch a TV show and you can monitor social media at the same time. This is this new world we live in. And what I was struck by was the way, there was as the show was being played, there was a tsunami visible off Sydney. A tsunami of denial came washing over. No, 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 no. But funnily enough, when I watched, I thought they could have gone even much harder, right? There was actually, they just did a few sensational things, but the problem's even bigger than 60 Minutes touched on.
And the question now is, what will Prime Minister Scott Morrison do? Because as Treasurer, he's got a certain record here that he's trying to uphold. So I'll just reference some of the commentary that's coming out this week, which is interesting. Bank Reform Now's Peter Branson recounted an exchange that he had with Scott Morrison in a recent meeting on his blog. He said that he suggested to Morrison that once people are facing a big boost in their mortgage payments, we will see people losing their homes, followed by a collapse in prices. Morrison, he said, just laughed and said no way that was going to happen. Then he rattled off that modelling done by the various agencies and departments all showed that it would be a very slow and slight reduction in home prices. I simply said, says Peter Branson, that those were the same agencies that didn't pick up on the GFC 10 years ago, which is a big matter of point right now.
Great comeback, that's right. That's Scott Morrison's denial there, writ large.
Now, the Labor Party is proposing to limit negative gearing and to halve the 50% capital gains tax discount. But this is basically shutting the gate after the horse has bolted. And Morrison himself slammed the plan, saying that it could, quote, invite a housing market crash, unquote. And he, of course, has said in the past that negative gearing doesn't inflate prices anyway. So Philip Seuss, the economist, responded, the real estate Prime Minister says that cutting back the tax rorts that totally didn't cause house prices to rise will cause a housing crash. Also, he added, how can the housing market crash if there is no bubble? But now it is true that virtually any tinkering right now could crash this whole thing, and that's why we keep saying that the only course is radical surgery, also known as Glass-Steagall banking separation, top down to regulate and control these banks.
A crash is inevitable. We need to be thinking about what a crash looks like, and you need a structure to deal with it. And part of that structure has to be Glass-Steagall, because only Glass-Steagall protects the depositors, protects the real financial bank customers from a financial crisis.
That's right. So we're going to take another break, and when we come back we're going to talk about how the government is going to manage this crisis when it comes down, because as we see already, the people are starting to take issue with our leaders and the fact that they're not acting on behalf of the people. And so there's going to be some drastic measures that are actually required.
Well, can I say, Elisa, in one of the meetings in Parliament, an advisor made a sideways reference to a term that's very casual and meaningless to them. He said, there's lots of stakeholders in Parliament this week. And I thought, in the not too distant future, that term stakeholders may mean something different. People turning up with their stakes. That's what can happen, and what we'll cover in the next episode, the next segment, is what governments are doing to preempt that.
Yeah, so we'll be right back.
No one knows what to say.
I try and treat him the same as I always have.
He didn't want to give up. He just couldn't.
Caring for Catherine was tough, but when I look back, it was the best thing we ever did together.
It's hard to know how to talk about dying. These people know. If you need to know how, visit lifeanddeath.org.au and join the conversation.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened last time.
Oh, look, I can't believe they're not running in.
Trying.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you believe he works here with us?
But did you hear about what he did last week? Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, hang on, he's coming.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay, you got two.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, look at him. That guy's a freak. Can you believe it? He won gold in the 100. Legend.
Welcome back to the CEC report. Why is British intelligence letting loose convicted terrorists? Now that's the title of an article in this week's Australian Alert Service, and for those viewers who haven't ever given us a call, pick up the phone and do so, and we'll send you a complimentary copy of this alert, and for others you can contact us to find out how you can get a hold of this article, because we can't do it justice in a short few moments. Now this is the story of this article and of this headline, is that the radical Islamist preacher, he's living in the UK, Anjem Chowdhury, will be released from prison next month. Now, he was jailed in 2016 for being a recruiter to ISIS, Islamic State, and he basically served half of his 5.5-year sentence for that. And this is part of a pattern. Since 9/11, 500 terrorists have been freed from UK prisons, including 23 of Anjem Chowdhury's followers. Another 5 of his followers will be released within the next year. Basically, from last March 2017 to March 2018, on average, 1 terrorist a week has been released from British prisons. And you'd have to ask yourself, since 9/11, that this has been the trajectory, why on earth? Now, Chris Phillips, he's the former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office, told the Sunday Telegraph on the 16th of September that in the 17 years since 9/11, we have seen a load of people convicted for terrorism offences. Now we are starting to see some serious ones coming out. If you're going to release hardened terrorists, he said, then you have to expect chaos. Now, Chowdhury himself has been linked to 15 terrorist attacks since 9/11. He's in the middle of every operation 2 of his followers conducted that London Bridge terrorist attack in June 2017, in which 2 Australians were killed.
That's right. We put out a statement about it at the time. This is something that Australia has an interest in because of those 2 victims. It was a crime. I mean, it's an outrage because of what you're about to go through.
Yeah.
This guy Chowdhury's connections to the British state.
Yeah, exactly. And the British Minister for Prisons, Rory Stewart, he actually admitted that this guy is still genuinely dangerous. But the government has claimed that they are powerless to prevent his release. And this is the UK we're talking about, which is leading the world in anti-terrorism, spying and surveillance laws. They have everything they need.
To be honest, they don't give a stuff about human rights or things like those releases. So when they're hiding behind it, it tells you there's something else going along. They have the powers to keep people like him off the streets.
But they don't want to. They're not interested in it. As you said, the British intelligence agencies are involved with these terrorists, and all the evidence points to that. MI5 has repeatedly intervened to keep Chowdhury in action. A Met that's the Metropolitan Police counter-terrorism officer, told The Telegraph in 2016, "I am gobsmacked that we allowed him to carry on as long as he did." This was before he went to prison. "He was up to his neck in it, but the police can't do full investigations on people if the security service says they are working on a really big job, because they have the priority." That is what they did constantly. And the group for which Chowdhury was a leader, Al Muhajirun, was a part of what's called a covenant of security between the British officials and terrorists, where they basically agreed if the terrorists didn't conduct attacks inside the UK, they would be allowed to conduct and go about their business. And this
attack people overseas, all you like, just don't do it here.
And this was desired by the British government because of their regime change operations in Libya and Syria. They had free range, these terrorists, to go back and forth from London to Syria, to Libya, come back. And, you know, the Manchester bombing, if you want to read the case, is an example of that, of guys going back and forth between Libya and the UK. Terrorism expert Nafiz Ahmed wrote in 2006, "The British state shows no interest in using its existing legal powers to neutralise terrorist networks in Britain, despite open threats of a new wave of terrorist attacks. Our thesis is they want a new wave of terrorist attacks for 2 reasons. To justify police state laws that in a financial crisis can be used to keep or to suppress an uprising, basically, to keep the people under control. And secondly, what we're particularly concerned about is the climate that's being created in conjunction with a lot of the attacks on Jeremy Corbyn right now, because Corbyn, the leader of the Labor Party, has addressed regime change, he's addressed the terror funding, but even more importantly, with the new oncoming financial crisis, he has addressed taking on the power of the City of London and the banks of the City of London over the UK and economic policy.
If Jeremy Corbyn was the Prime Minister of the UK in another financial crash, you would not have the banks getting off scot-free. There would be a radical reform process of the British banking system, and they do not want that.
No, and there's been death threats against Corbyn. There's been all kinds of high-level officials calling for him to be ditched from the party. So if there's an environment of lots of terrorism and there were to be an assassination attempt, successful or not, this could be justified and put down to this new wave of chaos of terrorism. So that is a grave threat, and it's also a grave threat because Australia is following the policy of these kind of new fascist police state laws. Yep. So call in for the alert service and find out more, read the details, because that's all we've got time for. Thanks for tuning in to the CC Report. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Lisa.
And join us again for next week's show.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage, because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night. MELfeed Video is about to...